गुड इवनिंग। मैं हूं आपका दोस्त मदन सिंह and I'm going to talk to you on a very important topic today. It's important because it means the destruction of Western civilization and humanity. और इसमें जो villain है, the person, the country which is the arch villain is Germany. Now let me explain to you. Ukraine has mounted a massive attack on Russia. That is the latest news we have got. And this was a very ingenious attack, ingenious in the sense that this was an attack which was something which Zelensky had been planning for over a year and a half, and has resulted in the destruction of close to 37 or 40 of the Russian nuclear bomber fleet. That includes their top bombers, that is the Tu-95 and the Tu-160. And there has to be a retaliation for Russia. It has not happened in that way at the moment, but it will come. Donald Trump has condemned Zelensky for this act, but there's one man who's absolutely probably thrilled, despite he's facing a big opposition in Germany, and that is the German Chancellor who's just been elected. He recently went to Washington to meet Donald Trump, but he was humiliated by Donald Trump and he's come back with his tail between his legs. But the fact is that this man is one of the most dangerous men that exist in the world at the moment. I do not know what is his thinking, but I think he has a hangover of the Nazi party which ruled Germany from 1933 to 1945. That was the time when Adolf Hitler took control and launched that massive invasion against Russia, when he went in almost 1,200 kilometers inside Russia, and the German war machine was only stopped just about 30 miles from Moscow. Well, gentlemen, this man had gone to Washington and he went with a big proposal for more weapons, arms, and support of Zelensky. He got a snub and he's come back. But that has not deterred Germany, and that deterrence of Donald Trump doesn't seem to have any effect. Neither the deterrence of a nuclear war, because Germany doesn't have any nuclear weapons. But still, he's very clear in his mind that he is going to support Ukraine. And one of the methods he's planning to support Ukraine is by building missiles inside Ukraine, a sort of a joint product, joint manufacture, so the missiles can be used against Russia from Ukraine and perhaps destroy Russia. That's his fond dream. He's facing a tremendous opposition from the extreme right, who are agitating that they don't want to support Ukraine. But I don't think it's going to happen, because he's hell-bent on leather, as the saying goes. Now what's happened is, if you look back at history, Germany has been the villain of two world wars. First World War, we had Kaiser Wilhelm II, and this man who was the Emperor of Germany launched Germany into a war with the Allies, was defeated, he had to abdicate, and Germany became a republic. Subsequently, Adolf Hitler rose to power in 1933, and he led Germany to doom by fighting with the British first, destroying the French, and then he thought he was going to destroy Russia, and ended up by having to commit suicide. But Germany is now back to its old antics, and it is going wholeheartedly in support of Ukraine. It's a very, very dangerous situation at the moment, and probably the President Trump, if he's wise enough, would have realized that Germany is playing a deadly game. And along with Germany, there are two other countries, that is England and France. I have not yet been able to understand what is the raison d'etre, what is the reason for the French and the British to fight Russia. and support Ukraine. So these three countries are forming a troika. They're defying the Americans. They're not bothered about the Americans and want to destroy Russia. Now, historically, Russia is very difficult to destroy. Kaiser Wilhelm II tried to destroy Russia, but ultimately there was a Bolshevik revolution. The Tsar was overthrown, and the Russians made peace with the Germans at that time. In the Second World War, there were some far-fetched dreams of Adolf Hitler that he would have liberalism or free living space in Russia, and the Russians would be treated as serfs. So he invaded Russia and was defeated. Now I think there's a resurrection of that old glory which Hitler and Kaiser Wilhelm promised and dreamt, but they couldn't achieve it. And now that Germany is a powerhouse economically and the biggest economy in Europe and the strongest economy, has hell-bent on leather to fight the Russians. Frankly, I have not been able to understand the reason he's thinking it, but he's the one who's giving tremendous aid to Ukraine. The British and the French are also in line, and yet their reasons are not understood. I have been reading the Norse myths. The Norse myths are certain wonderful stories which consist of god Odin, Zeus, and all these people. And one of the refrain which comes from that is that those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make them mad. Now, this appears to be a classic case of destruction of Western civilization, because I don't think the Germans, the French, and the British realized that Russia is the most powerful nuclear power in the world. They have got thousands of missiles, all tipped with nuclear warheads ready, and it's going to be a terrible situation. It's not something which you can wish it, and I hope such a situation doesn't arise. But as I told you, those whom the gods wish to destroy, they make them mad. Historically, the cycle, as I've told you repeatedly in my videos, is now turning against the West. The rise of China is an example, and Russia is fighting along with China. Iran is the other big ally. Iran is going to be the destabilizing force in the Middle East, and Israel is frightened. And Donald Trump, I think, he's a bit of an enigma. He wants to make friends with China. He's really scared of China. I mean, that's the real fact. All his tariffs, everything he's putting on China is a facade to cover up his inherent fear of China. And he's scared that India will also develop like China, so he wants to put India down, and he's creating a Frankenstein in Pakistan. He's agreed to give billions of dollars to Pakistan, and there can be only one reason for it, is to build up Pakistan against India so that India doesn't rise. And then we have got the British and the French who lost their empires. They don't know what the hell is happening, and they want to see that they can defeat Russia once for all, and then their hegemony over Europe will be complete. But Harold Robbins wrote that famous book, Dreams Die First. Well, these are good dreams the British and the French have got, but they are not going to help. And the Germans, in any case, benefit of nuclear weapons, are very, very susceptible. So, gentlemen, I have not been able to understand. In fact, I think any reasonable man, including John Mearsheimer and good commentators of America, have not been able to understand what exactly is bugging the British, the French, and the Germans. Why are they prepared to risk their civilization, which they have built up over 2,000 years, by trying to destroy Russia? You can't destroy Russia, and neither do these countries have the power which Russia has got. Part of their bomber fleet may have been obliterated, destroyed in the recent bombing by Ukraine, but that's got no relevance. Russia has got tremendous firepower still, and I won't be surprised if they start using it. And if the Germans go in and start making missiles in Ukraine, that's number one. Or if they give missiles which are used by Ukraine against Russia, Russia has made it very clear that they would consider striking Germany. And now, one aspect we must remember that Germany, France, and England are very small countries compared to Russia. England, in particular, is very small, and they are playing with fire. But then, fire is something that engulfs, and we'll have to wait and see what happens, gentlemen. But I have no hesitation in mind that in case the Germans continue on this line, including the British and the French, in trying to prop up Ukraine which is totally defeated and being propped up by these three countries, and earlier by Biden, I think they have signed the death warrant. It's a very sad tale that such a thing should happen, but that's part of the game. It's a historical cycle. It has to take place. And how does it take place? It takes place when the leadership becomes mad. And that's what's happened. Stammer, the British Prime Minister, Macron, the French Prime Minister, President, I think they're totally confused. And there is a sizable opposition to these men in their own countries. They would better look inwards, because they're being moth-eaten by the Islamists. We'll wait and see, gentlemen, what happens. But I think the clock is ticking now, ticking against the Western world. And I hope sanity prevails and they can survive this. Otherwise, it'll be a holocaust, and it'll be these countries were once there. Gentlemen, I hope you like my video. Share it with your friends and do subscribe to my channel. In the meantime, I'll say goodbye and God bless. Thank you and Jai Hind.